Hello again. Welcome back to year 4 of the Religious Education Initiative. This is week 14, day 1. So last time we saw the end of the story of Gideon, how he completed the victory against the Midianites and then returned to sack some Israelite cities that had not supported him during the fighting. He ended up ruling Israel as a judge in name only, leading Israel as a judge in name only, leading Israel in worshiping God using idolatrous methods, and when he finally dies, all of Israel returns to worshiping Baal. This account of Gideon is not the worst of what happens in the book of Judges. From chapter 8, things go from bad to worse as everyone in Israel continues to do whatever seems good to them in their own eyes. The book of Judges is effectively showing us the need for an anointed king in Israel, someone to lead the people in faithfulness to Yahweh, the God of Israel, to do justice and uphold the Torah. The next 2 weeks' readings will give us a final glimpse at the time of the Judges and a look at how the Lord will bring just such a king for his people. This is something of a prequel. Prequel to what? Well, we'll figure that out. So, this is the book of Ruth, chapter 1. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to live in the country of Moab, he and his wife and 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. When they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Then she started to return with her daughters-in-law from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had considered his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she had been living, she and her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on their way to go back to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find security, each of you, in the house of your husband." Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud. They said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Do I still have sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. Even if I thought there was hope for me, even if I should have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you then wait until they were grown? Would you then refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it has been far more bitter for me than for you, because the hand of the Lord has turned against me." Then they wept aloud again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. So Naomi said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not press me to leave you or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die. There will I be buried. May the Lord do thus and so to me, and more as well, if even death parts me from you." When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. So the 2 of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women said, "Is this Naomi?" She said to them, "Call me no longer Naomi," which means pleasant. "Call me Mara," which means bitter. For the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has dealt harshly with me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me? So Naomi returned together with Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, who came back with her from the country of Moab. They came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Now Naomi had a kinsman on her husband's side, a prominent rich man of the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain behind someone in whose sight I may find favor. She said to her, Go, my daughter. So she went. She came and gleaned in the field behind the reapers. As it happened, she came to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Just then Boaz came from Bethlehem. He said to the reapers, The Lord be with you. They answered, The Lord bless you. Then Boaz said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, To whom does this young woman belong? The servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, She is the Moabite who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. She said, Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the reapers. So she came, and she has been on her feet from early this morning until now, without resting even for a moment. Then Boaz said to Ruth, Now listen, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Keep your eyes on the field that is being reaped, and follow behind them. I have ordered the young men not to bother you. If you get thirsty, go to the vessels and drink from what the young men have drawn. Then she fell prostrate with her face to the ground, and said to him, Why have I found favor in your sight, that you should take notice of me, when I am a foreigner? But Boaz answered her, All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told me, and how you left your father and mother and your native land, and came to a people that you did not know before. May the Lord reward you for your deeds, and may you have a full reward from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. Then she said, May I continue to find favor in your sight, my lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant, even though I am not one of your servants. At mealtime, Boaz said to her, Come here and eat some of this bread, and dip your morsel in the sour wine. So she sat beside the reapers, and he heaped up for her some parched grain. She ate until she was satisfied, and she had some left over. When she got up to glean, Boaz instructed his young men, Let her glean even among the standing sheaves, and do not reproach her. You must also pull out some handfuls for her from the bundles, and leave them for her to glean, and do not rebuke her. So she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. She picked it up and came into the town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she had gleaned. Then she took out and gave her what was left over after she herself had been satisfied. Her mother-in-law said to her, Where did you glean today, and where have you worked? Blessed be the man who took notice of you. So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and said, The name of the man with whom I worked today is Boaz. Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, Blessed be he by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead. Naomi also said to her, The man is a relative of ours, one of our nearest kin, one with the right to redeem. Then Ruth the Moabite said, He even said to me, Stay close by my servants until they have finished all my harvest. Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, It is better, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, otherwise you might be bothered in another field. So she stayed close to the young women of Boaz, gleaning until the end of the barley and wheat harvests, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Okay, so this is it's a longer reading, and it's perhaps a little bit unusual. I want to zoom in on a couple of things. First of all, in terms of the basic plot, Ruth is a pagan. She's a woman of Moab. She worships different gods. This is what Naomi is saying to her. Because Ruth and Orpah, they both married Naomi's sons. They came into the household of Israel, sort of, in that they married Israelite men, Judahite men, Jews, but they were living in Moab, and what was going on there, who knows. But when the husbands have died, the connection to Israel is gone. So it's not clear to me whether Naomi really wants Ruth and Orpah to go back, or whether she is testing them. But I think she does want them to go back. She's thinking of this life. She's thinking of the good things that can be found in this world. She wants them to have the chance to marry and to go back to their families because she can't help them anymore. She can't feed them. Ruth insists on staying, and she comes back, and she is honored by the people in Judah, even precisely because they recognize her love, her faithfulness, her devotion. And they accept her, at least Boaz does. Now, this is kind of what's on the surface. What I want to talk about for the last little bit is to remember in the Ten Commandments, when the commandment says, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain." And this is often used to say, well, you shouldn't swear. You shall not take the name, literally what this says is you shall not take the name of Yahweh your God in vain. So this is part of why even now modern Jews will not say the name of God from the Old Testament, lest they accidentally take the name of Yahweh their God in vain. What we see here is every time that the Lord's name is invoked, even when Ruth says in verse 17, "May the Lord do thus and so to me, and more as well, if even death parts me from you." What she's saying actually is, "May Yahweh do thus and so to me." She invokes the name of God upon herself. And we see throughout, the name of God, Yahweh is used. Naomi uses it. When Yahweh has dealt harshly with me, why call me Naomi? But then we see Boaz come, and he is greeting his reapers. He says, "May Yahweh be with you." And they answer, "May Yahweh bless you." So the name of the Lord is being used all over the place here. The question is it being used in vain? And we see in Ruth a clear example that she is not invoking the name of Yahweh, her God, in vain. She says that she will take him as her God, and Boaz recognizes this and invokes a blessing in the name of the Lord upon her, saying, "May Yahweh reward you for your deeds. May you have a full reward from Yahweh, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge." So this is what I want to really zoom in on. This is Ruth taking the name of the Lord, calling herself by the name of the Lord, taking Yahweh, the God of Israel, as her own God, not in vain, but in truth. And she is recognized and honored for this. And Naomi finds comfort. Now we'll see what happens next. Of course, you probably know the end of the story. But for now, that's enough for today. God bless you all. We'll see you briefly or shortly for day 2.